Hydroelectricity has been used in the United States as a source of electricity since 1880 and is currently the country's largest producer of renewable electricity, which only accounts for 7% of the electricity generated nationally. With freshwater resources depleting and human populations rising, priorities of environmental technologists should be achieving higher environmental sustainability standards, while also increasing hydroelectric output to meet the demand of the public and industries in the future. To ascertain where improvements can be made in the hydroelectric process, we should look at some basics first, such as how electric power is generated and what kinds of hydroelectric projects exist. First, water in a reservoir is drawn through the intake. The water generates kinetic energy as it flows downhill through the penstock. As it passes the turbine blades are rotated, and as a result, a joint generator shaft spins a copper rotor. Powerful electromagnets arranged in a circle around the rotor then continually move past the copper conductor and generate a flow of electricity through a principle known as electromagnetic induction. Different types of turbines can be selected based on the volume and height of standing water on site. The two most prominent types are reaction turbines, which are better in lower head and higher volume applications, and also impulse turbines, which are suited for high head and low volume conditions. Three kinds of hydropower plants exist and can operate in three different sizes to accommodate energy demand. The most common are impoundment facilities, in which water is stored behind a dam to create a reservoir. The water is released through the penstock and spins a turbine, generating electricity. The second is known as a diversion facility, which channels just a portion of water through a canal or penstock to power a turbine. The benefit to this is that the construction of a dam is not always required. The third, pumped storage facilities, resemble impoundment facilities, except they allow the pumping of water back into the upper reservoir to be used in the future. This can be especially useful when preparing or accommodating periods of high energy demand. The restriction of fluvial landscapes, oversimplification of downstream ecosystems, and overall loss of biodiversity are all consequences of large dams on American rivers. The United States has established that a decrease in flow around 1/2 to 2/3 of the original downstream volume is coupled with extensive effects. This decrease in volume is also connected to a decline in the geomorphic complexity and active river components, which include floodplains and riparian wetlands. Further environmental impact is reinforced due to the association between riparian vegetation and the hydrologic and geomorphic conditions. The population decline of species that depend on riparian vegetation is the direct result of the aforementioned changes. Environmental impacts associated with hydroelectric dam and reservoir construction are investigated and compared via environmental impact assessment and environmental impact post-assessment. The main areas of focus of an EIA and an EIPA are water temperature, which examines both the vertical and horizontal temperature, and monthly comparison of predicted measured discharge temperatures. The influence on aquatic organisms, which is assessed by examining planktonic animals and plants, benthic organisms, higher aquatic plants, fish, and especially rare species, and is also included by a discussion of further conservation measures and by observations of the habitats of spawning fish. Includes the downstream impacts, which observe the sediment deposition, changes in erosion, flow rates, and water level downstream. Water quality, which considers sources and distribution of pollutants, any trends in eutrophication, and outflow water quality analysis both downstream and from the reservoir. Also assesses geological changes, which include investigation of conditions that incite erosion, earthquakes, landslides, and bank collapse. Causes, magnitude, and location are also crucial components of the evaluation. These factors are also imperative for the improvement of security measures and workplace safety. Influences on terrestrial organisms, primarily in evaluation of protective measures for plants, especially the rare species. Animals are mainly subject to habitat loss and changes in feeding habits during the construction process, but further protective steps should be taken. And also landscape changes, or any analysis of natural landscape prior to dam and reservoir development, evaluating and improving protective measures to conserve the natural landscape for future utilization. Alone, environmental impact assessments do not provide enough of a scientific basis for improving the development of hydroelectric projects and reducing their negative environmental impacts. Comparison of the environmental impact assessment and environmental impact post-assessment provides a much more accurate assessment of the actual impacts on environmental quality. Further in-depth observation and analysis could reveal additional precautionary measures and insight to improve environmental quality in all stages of facility construction. Improvements to environmental impacts, as well as increasing capacities and efficiencies in dams, can be made by upgrading and modernizing equipment at existing hydroelectric plants. Implementing power generation at existing non-powered dams and reservoirs, and also utilizing man-made waterways such as canals or water treatment systems, can be further used to minimize the effects on river systems, aquatic wildlife, and terrestrial wildlife. The costs of adding environmental improvements to older hydroelectric projects is commonly lower than the cost of constructing a new project. Benefits from efficient electronic components, decreased construction costs coupled with innovative materials aid in keeping the maintenance costs of hydroelectric projects low. In conclusion, the overall impact of hydroelectric facilities on the environment is negative and counterproductive. The effects will continually worsen as human populations grow and the demand for accessible fresh water explodes. Environmental management strategy diversification will aid analysis accuracy, focusing on estimating a project's true impact. However, harnessing a renewable resource is a favorable choice over non-renewable alternatives. The economic role of hydropower is very important for power generation, public and industrial water supply. Further discussion should be placed on developing a means of generating hydroelectricity without subjecting aquatic systems and terrestrial organisms to flooding or dam construction, which have further implications. The diversion facility satisfies this criterion, but cannot accommodate the needs of rising human populations. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.